you tell me
Right.
to handle it?
All right, good evening and welcome. I will now call to order the regular scheduled Apex Town Council meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 to order. Thank you again for being here. And I would also like to welcome those joining us on live stream YouTube. And as we always start all of our meetings, we're transitioning right into the invocation. And tonight, I want to just take a brief moment of silence. But in that moment of silence, I want you to think about the things that you're grateful for. And I will say, I'm grateful to live in the best town in America, Apex, North Carolina. So you figure it out on your own when you take your moment of silence. So let's join in together and take a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, thank you so much. If you're willing and able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I just want to make a quick reminder. If you plan on speaking tonight in public forum or a public hearing, please make your way to my right and see town clerk here to sign up so you can be recognized at the appropriate time. We'll go ahead now and move to the consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Oh, 1 second. 1 second, I'm sorry.
We need
Ms.
to
Clerk.
pull consent 6.
Okay,
Staff needs to do a double check on the numbers. We just realized that, so if we can pull consent 6 and add it to new business.
all right,
4.
consent 6 moves to
Should
new
still
business
be able
4.
to Be heard tonight.
I'll make that motion then. Move 6 to consent 6 to new business number 4.
Mayor Pro Tem motion.
Second.
Oh, you can have it.
No.
I'll do this one. Second.
All right, you got it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, moving now to our presentations, and we have a total of 3 tonight. We'll start with the Apex Public School Foundation Quarterly Peak Star Awards, sponsored by Council Member Terry Mahaffey, and of course, our great people at Apex Public School Foundation. So, Councilman Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. So what we're here to do tonight is to give out what we call our Peak Star Award. It's a quarterly award where the town of Apex has partnered with the Apex Public School Foundation to recognize a staff member, a teacher, an administrator, a recognition award for the great work that they do in our public schools. And we partner with APSF in order to do this. They help us out, and we bring someone up. And this is an opportunity for us to learn about the great work that's happening in our public schools and to show our appreciation. So with that, I'd like to invite up Barb from the Apex Public School Foundation to tell us more about the foundation and tonight's awardee.
Yay, yay.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Barb Conroy, and I'm pleased to be here representing the Apex Public School Foundation. The APSF supports the 19 Wake County Public Schools with an Apex mailing address. We currently have 3 high schools, 5 middle schools, and 11 elementary schools with an Apex mailing address, and that will be increasing next year. Our primary program, the Teacher Grant Program, funds teacher proposals that promote student engagement through innovative and creative programs. Our volunteers are currently busy reviewing applications from this year, and we're looking forward to awarding funds in early 2025. Every Tuesday, the APSF celebrates exceptional educators, administrators, and staff members at our Apex area schools with a social media shout out. The weekly shout out honorees are then eligible for the quarterly Peak Star in partnership with Councilmember Mahaffey and the town of Apex, so thank you. So tonight, I am here to announce this quarter's Peak Star recipient, Courtney Moretti, a special education teacher at Olive Chapel Elementary School. She demonstrates dedication to her students and school community on a regular basis, as evident through truly understanding each of her students' unique needs and challenges, responding to her students in a way that fosters both academic growth and confidence. Her warmth and humor help students in her care feel seen, valued, and supported. And she also prioritizes teaching the entire Olive Chapel community how to better relate to and engage with special needs students throughout the school in a variety of ways, including one-on-one mentoring and school-wide presentations. Olive Chapel Principal Erin May shared, Ms. Moretti has added tremendous value not only to our special education team, but also to our entire school. So congratulations, Courtney Moretti, for being named this quarter's Peak Star. Ms. Moretti and Principal Erin May are both here.
All right.
I just want to say thank you, and thank you to Erin, because without her saying those beautiful words, I would not have been nominated for this, and I'm so appreciative of it. I walk through my life with two goals, one of those being to leave every person that I meet feeling seen, loved, and safe. The second thing is to always say the hard thing, and because saying the hard thing sometimes unlocks the door to someone's life change. And the fact that I'm standing here today with this award shows that those missions are living out through me, and people are seeing that and acknowledging that. And I'm so appreciative of it, because I can't flourish without being in places where I'm planted in good soil. My family is great soil. The school that I work at is amazing soil. And that is what you're seeing in this recognition today. So thank you so much.
Awesome, awesome.
I hope I was standing in the right place. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say Ms. Moretti is an amazing teacher, exceptional educator at the greatest school in the land, Olive Chapel Elementary, and I'm proud to work with her. She is an amazing teacher. She's a tremendous asset as a colleague. She builds capacity with the teachers at our school with professional development, and she's committed to serving all students. So she is very deserving of this honor, and I thank you for taking the time to recognize her today.
All right, great.
Pictures? Good. Okay. One more.
When it says one more, that's code for I screwed up.
He never screws up. What are you talking about? Come on.
I was blinking.
Ms. Moretti, ready for the song?
Oh, no.
All right, congratulations, Ms. Moretti. Thank you, Ms. May, for being here. All right, we'll move now to presentation number 2. We have a proclamation for Small Business Saturday 2024. And as we always do, we'll read the proclamation together. So colleagues, will you join me up front for the reading of the proclamation? All right, again, Small Business Saturday 2024 proclamation from the Office of the Mayor. And kicking us off tonight will be Mayor Pro Tem Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And Small Business Saturday 2024. Whereas the town of Apex, North Carolina celebrates Small Business Saturday and recognizes the invaluable contributions of our local small businesses to our economy, community, and
Whereas Small Business Saturday is one of the busiest and most important days for small businesses in the country, with an estimated $17 billion being spent at local shops and restaurants during this event in 2023, and
whereas for each dollar spent at a small business, 68 cents stay in the local economy, which means each purchase continues to support the town of Apex far beyond when it was made, and
Whereas small businesses help our town thrive by employing thousands of residents, enhancing quality of life, and setting the foundation for the character and charm of Apex. And
Whereas the town of Apex joins the U.S. Small Business Administration and North Carolina Department of Commerce in supporting America's small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year.
Now, therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of Apex, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 30th, 2024, Small Business Saturday in the town of Apex, and urge residents to shop local and shop small and continue their incredible support of our small businesses on Small Business Saturday and every day. Signed this 12th day of November 2024. And I want to welcome Barb and Colleen from our economic development team here. And also, if you are here with Small Business Saturday, any business, small business owners, if you would come up and accept the proclamation as well.
Yeah. It's more we're out of balance, yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity for all that you do for small businesses, Mayor Gilbert, and also Barbara and Colleen. These are names who I've been seeing and faces. So I love to show up representing other small businesses, and I love encouraging other small businesses because some of us started out in our homes, and now I'm downtown. So I appreciate all that you do, and for the officers for keeping us safe, because I really do feel safe downtown.
Good. All right. Good job. Excellent. Okay. We good? All right. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in to read the proclamation. So we'll move now to presentation 3, and this is something I'm really excited about. I invited these great people in, and they're the sharpest dressed executive directors in the land. So we have Dr. Toya Hodges, Executive Director of Western Wake Crisis Ministry, and also Andre Anthony, Chief Executive Office of Dorcas Ministries. They have a presentation for us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we've got a presentation coming.
Mr. Clerk, is it up? We're working on it. Okay, you're working on it. Okay. All right, cool.
There we go.
I was going to say I was going to have to do some song and dance to
You can do it. You can do it.
keep it going. All right. Just
I'll let him dance, I'll sing.
There you go. All right.
I can do that. I can't sing. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the invitation to present. And good evening to you all. And thank you to all of Town Council for this opportunity to present. My name is Andre Anthony. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Dorcas Ministries. And
I'm Dr. Toya Hodges, and I'm the Executive Director of Western Wake Crisis Ministry.
so we're going to spend a little bit of time this evening. I was told we have 10 minutes, so we will keep it at 10 minutes. Just to give you a little bit of insight about this merger that a lot of people have heard about. So I want to kind of paint the picture and ask you to imagine something. You're walking through a maze, searching for solutions to complex issues like hunger, housing insecurity, or community health. You're walking through this maze, you can't see a clear path, and every turn you take, there's a new challenge. Now imagine someone else in that same maze with you, heading in a different direction, but facing very similar obstacles? What if you join forces? What if instead of two people walking alone, you created a team committed to navigating that maze together? That is the power of collaborative partnerships in our world in the nonprofit space. We often set out to solve issues that seem insurmountable if you go it alone, but together we're not only stronger, we're more resilient and more innovative. And that is what we're looking to accomplish with this merger between Dorcas and Western Way Crisis Ministry. It is a partnership that is rooted and will continue to be rooted in the idea that we are always stronger together. So one of the first things we'll start with is just talking about our respective missions and visions as an organization, as organizations. I'm not going to read this to you, but you'll start to see a lot of synergy in these two organizations that are very heavily focused on helping our neighbors thrive by providing very, very crucial assistance, housing stability, making sure that we're keeping people in their homes, making sure that we're able to help people put food on the table, and the ultimate goal being, how do we get you to a place where you never need organizations like us again?
So as we are imagining this, I can imagine Margaret Keller and Antoinette Clark walking around looking down at how their organizations that they planted 65 years ago in Western Wake 41 years ago, how that little seed that they planted is now taking care of so many people and so many organizations. And it's powerful to be able to know that we're the answer to people's prayers when they're walking in the door. Not knowing how they're going to eat, not knowing how they're going to pay their utilities, not knowing how they're going to survive, and we're the answers of that. And this all came from those two women coming from the same background, being in churches, seeing people needing help, and decided to plant these seeds.
So we'll talk a little bit about the why, and like I mentioned earlier, we're stronger together, right? So when you think about combining efforts and being able to serve our community at large, looking forward to working together to strengthen our capacity to address the growing needs. As you all know, and I'm not going to bore you with all the stats, this is one of the fastest growing regions in the country, and with that growth comes need, and with that need comes our desire and our need to help meet those needs. And one of the ways we do that is we have found a model that works, right? We are blessed to have a significant revenue source in a thrift store. It is, as for those of you who have been there, and Mayor came and took a tour not too long ago, it is the bougiest thrift store you'll ever walk into. But it is a significant, a source of significant revenue that allows us to do the work in unique work and in unique ways that are necessary to keep people in their homes, and to make sure that we're building a workforce that's ready for today and tomorrow. Then I'll let Atoya talk about shared infrastructure.
Well, I'm personally excited about the shared infrastructure because right now I hold about 9 jobs. I'm the marketing person, I'm the fundraiser, I'm the event coordinator. They have a whole team. Like even this presentation, this was the first presentation I didn't have to create. So I'm extremely excited. But in addition to that, it allows us to free up our time to be more in the community, to grow, to bring the awareness, to be able to serve the people that are in need, because we do have this shared infrastructure.
And that's shared infrastructure. So, I mean, I know you all know Western Way Crisis Ministry, and I think what I'm doing here today is make sure that you also know Dorcas. If you look back to 2023, we provided about just under $3 million worth of financial and food assistance to about 6,000 of our neighbors. And that's everything from, again, emergency and food assistance to helping people get back to go back to school to be able to train up to be able to get higher paying jobs, and it ran the gamut. So we're excited for all the wins that come from this collaboration. And one of the other things that I will mention is in the winter of 2026, the county is going to be, well, actually looking to break ground next year for the work to be completed at the end of 2026 and the regional service center. So the western part of Wake County has never had a regional service center so that's going to be built actually right there on the Dorcas campus, adjacent to between our property and the bowling alley. So, if you picture somebody who maybe took the day off because they needed to hit the county services, and when they were done, it's like, okay, well, the county does what the county does, right? And there are other services that I'm going to need. So you're sent down to Dorcas, but you happen to have an Apex address, right? From a social services standpoint, before merger, right, our social services service area was Cary Mooresville. Now that person comes to us, we're gonna help them, right? We're gonna provide them food, but we're gonna then send them back to Western Wake Crisis Ministry to get some more of those services that they need. And wouldn't it be great if that didn't matter? Wouldn't it be great if these man-made borders that we have did not dictate the level of service and care that people received? And that's one of the biggest wins that we're hoping to have as this merger continues. So we're passionate about what we do. We're passionate about this. We want this to be successful, and we can go on and on and on. But I think y'all catch the drift. And if we're not over time, want to open it up to questions or comments. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Any questions from members of council?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you gave an example of somebody, visiting your campus and then the soon-to-be Wake County Community Center or Service Center. What is the vision for the people in Apex that currently use Western Wake Crisis Ministry as their service center, right? Will we offer more services because your missions are very complementary, but they're not necessarily overlapping, right? And so are we going to see more like financial literacy type services, to the Apex community? And kind of logistically, are we going to prevent people from having to travel across different service centers, so the people that are accustomed to visiting the Apex Center can continue to go to the Apex Center for their needs instead of having to drive, to another location?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to answer that question is everything that is happening today continues, and the vision is that it only gets better. So we have zero interest in having people go to a different location than where they're going today. A lot of things will stay exactly the way they are today, and as we enhance the programs and the services and the offerings, it only gets better right where you live, right where you're used to. So, yeah.
And that's part of the excitement of us bringing that to our service area, because right now we don't have the infrastructure to handle all the education and the workforce development. So now that we're merging with Dorcas, we will be able to offer that to the local citizens. Yeah.
I would just like to say, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Wrap it up. Go ahead.
Jump in with a question. Sorry, Mayor. I was just going to, I'll start by saying thank you so much for what you both do, what your organizations do for our community. I didn't really realize till I got on council what a vital component Western Wake Crisis Ministry is, specifically to Apex and to that, we call it a safety net or whatever. You have a town here that cares deeply about our citizens and helping people, and we support what we can. But when I think of Western Wake, I think of just the agility to which Western Wake can respond and provide assistance to our residents. It's just so much faster than what a government can do. So there have been many occasions I've been very thankful to have you guys there and to hear about this merger, to solve some issues, to make your operations more efficient, so the resources you do have, can be spent more effectively to help people. All sounds wonderful. I'm very glad to hear all this. I have a technical question, I guess. Two of them really. One, we partner with Western Wake on a variety of fronts right now. We have contracts. We work on the utility assistance program, among others. You know, I think we help staff someone to work administer that program. I think I heard you say all that'll continue without interruption.
Correct.
That's good to hear. And my second question just has to do with branding. I know that Western Wake Crisis Ministry is a pretty strong brand in Apex. People are used to going to Western Wake for assistance. Have you put any thought into how the combined organization will present itself to the combined Cary Apex community? Will it all transition to Dorcas? Will you keep the Western Wake brand for Apex, or some combination of the two? Have you thought about that at all?
We're gonna bring a lot of people in a room that are much smarter than the rest of us to figure that question out. So until that question gets figured out, it's business as usual.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. These are two very storied brands that you need to make sure that you're careful in the way you navigate that change, at the same time not creating confusion out in the community. So we will, we've spent a lot of time thinking about it already, and we're going to bring some people in the room to help us think through it and make sure that we make the right decisions and build the right plans and strategies to communicate that out.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Anthony, can you just kind of touch on and highlight a couple of ways that the town of Cary has partnered with Dorcas over the years, and then just recent years they've done quite a bit. Can you kind of touch on some of those?
Excuse me. Allergy season in North Carolina, I have learned, is
all year long.
All
year round. So my body's still adjusting. So in a lot of ways, just like Western Wake Crisis Ministry has been for Apex, Dorcas has been the social services agency for the town. Councilmember Mahaffey mentioned this about the agility and the things that us as social services agencies can do in a lot of ways faster and with more expertise than a government would. So we've been that for the town of Cary. We actually administer the town of Cary's utility, just like y'all do with UCAP. We administer their Play It Forward scholarship with their Parks and Recs department. So all that runs through Dorcas. And then officially over the last year, the town of Cary just partnered with us to we are now the lead agency whenever people are facing housing instability. So that was a partnership that's been brewing, and it's in a lot of ways it's a recognition of work that was already happening, and giving us the opportunity to build our capacity to do more. So if people are being displaced, right, we are the lead agency that steps in a coordinated effort to make sure that people land on their feet. And so that's right now the capacity building side of that is $500,000 this year, $550,000 next year, $600,000 the following year. And then there's another, and all of this was public, there was another $800,000 that was approved by Cary Town Council as seed fund, and just dollars, a pot of money set aside so that if anything happened and people had to be relocated just like that, we could dip into that pot to make sure that, again, they landed on their feet. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
There's a lot more to share, but I'll stop there.
That's fine. Yeah. Any other questions? I would just encourage my colleagues, if you can, I know you visited Western Wake Crisis Ministry, but please go visit that bougie thrift store. It is all that, so go check it out.
I will say that my daughter loves that store, so we're there
Okay.
often.
And we're blessed, right? We own the plaza, so we have that, that combination of nonprofit organizations that are right there, not just us, 4 other nonprofits. You've got the thrift store, you've got, our whole community services department, and it's become a hub for social services. So definitely a blessing, and we would, yes, I know what you're going to ask. We would be looking to replicate that here. Right. Absolutely.
Thanks for all y'all do.
Absolutely, and thank you all again for the opportunity.
Great.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, we'll move on now to setting of the regular meeting agenda. All right, are there any questions about the meeting agenda as presented? Any recommended changes? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve with the added new business form.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ziegler? Second. Killingsworth. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving now to a public forum. This is opportunity for community members to speak. Please remember the public participation policy. 3 minutes is your time unless you have 4 people or more, and we'll give you 9 minutes. Please monitor the series of lights there. Green is go, yellow, you have 30 seconds left, and red, wrap up your presentation.
Name
All right.
and address.
Name and address, thank you. So present your name and address when you, before you present your remarks. All right, we have the first presenter tonight is Dawn Casalino.
Oh, sorry. Technical. Dawn Casalino, 3632 Bosco Road. Good evening, Town Council. So I'm wondering why after several meetings and emails, I presented the traffic crash reports and the traffic volume data for the New Hill Friendship Community, a rural community in Wake County, and nobody's reached out to me. I was acknowledged for it, but nobody's reached out to me to have a conversation. And I think it's really critical for safety and Project Vision Zero. Can I ask that you respond to me and set up time even to meet with me to discuss? How can you as a council approve developments when you don't consider traffic impact studies or crashes? Or you and your staff don't even visit sites, like physically go out to sites, walk the parcels? I don't know how you can, I can't understand how you can run a city effectively when you look at a two-dimensional map or you're at a desk. So I want to present to you, this is indicative of our community. This is an English riding bridle. And you've probably seen the shows Yellowstone and all the TV shows, and everybody thinks the bit, which is this metal piece here, and the reins are what control a horse. Well, it's far from the truth, actually. It's not that. It's harmony. It's connection. It's working with the horse. Those are the things, and that harmony is what gives the skills of the rider as well, gives the skills to work with the horse, and the horse want to work together. And what I see in what's happening with the Apex government is rather the thing that everybody thinks is you pull on the reins and you control the horse like this. And that is the eminent domain, okay, that is going on with the Western Big Branch and Forest Main in our area, which is for private development, right? It's for profit companies. And there's other better ways and diverse ideas that we've provided to you in hopes that you would choose those different options. They do have the same positive impact of sewer and water infrastructure. They just happen to be on the south side of US Highway 1. And they also are, there's already a power line under there, okay? So it's ripe. It's ripe for that type of development, and I'm sure much more cheaper than the route you're going. So I just want to ask that you consider that, and consider that not just plugging or rushing housing because we need it. Thinking through what's needed, because this is how the whole city comes together. Thank you very much.
Thank you for speaking tonight. Therese Potter. Hello.
Therese Potter, 106 Shining Star Court, Apex 27502. I think we can all agree that the utilities issue has become extremely frustrating. In my house, I've lived in Apex for 12 years. It's my husband, myself, and my son left for the Marines in April. So the difference between last year and this year is astounding because I no longer have a teenager that leaves lights on and that kind of thing. So first and foremost, any and all of the staff that I've interacted with in the past in person have been great. Large item removal, landscape removal, one electric issue years ago, everything was great. In my case with utilities, in July we paid the June amount, August we paid $300, September we paid $153 because it made sense. The bill came showing $153. In October, the bill showed a measurable, outrageous increase. November, still almost 3 times more. So mind you, this is a 1,400 square foot ranch. It's not a 2-story house. My bill right now for 2 months is $671.79. When I called the town, I left a voicemail, cut you off at 30 seconds. Couldn't leave my name and number because I didn't know it was gonna cut me off. The second voicemail, left a message, took 3 weeks to get a call back. Then I got 2 additional calls after that asking if I had been contacted. They told me I was going to be contacted by the billing department, but that didn't happen. So they also need a system of notes where, hey, we contacted her already, this is where we're at, we need to follow up. So I was told that one bill was doubled, but the electricity, water, and sewer were double, but the yard waste, garbage, recycle, and storm water were not double. So how can it be a double bill? And the service period of the last bill was actually off, so that makes it even more suspicious. I know there are benefits of using the town for our utilities. However, we, the consumer, are captive to the town and the services you provide. That means we are also captive to the customer service you are providing. And I think all of us were expecting more from a town that is clearly growing, that should be prepared for things like this. None of us blame the staff for the cyber attack, but we do expect for the town to have a plan in place when issues arise. We expect great customer service. We expect an explanation. The leader's ability to problem solve, have transparency with the people, and implement a plan is the key, and we are lacking in some of these areas. I did see the latest video, and I think we are headed in a good direction, but we need to see results. And I think maybe the third party coming in to do the investigation may be what we all need, because we need to see our bills detailed out with an explanation of what's going on, and we need a transparency from our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking. All right, Jack Rolos.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, esteemed council. I'm here tonight representing Whitehall Manor, which is Grappen Hall at Peakway, and the traffic measures that have recently happened there. We've had the shutdown of the Peakway and the deviation of traffic through Grappen Hall and into Towhee. And I know at least 2 of the council members have firsthand experience of what it's like right there. But to give a small picture of what's going on the ground and where our concerns lie, I think a little bit of data would be useful here. So the closure happened yesterday. Today, between 4:40 and 5:03 p.m., 4:40 p.m. and 5:03 p.m., we had 59 cars coming into the intersection of Towhee and Applethorne. For illustration, let's say this door is Peakway and Olive Chapel, and there's no door there because it's blocked off right now for Peakway. So we have no through traffic signs at Olive Chapel and Grappen Hall. However, people can still move through if they consider themselves local traffic. And when they get to this point and they can't go any further, there is a deviation that is allowed. They can go on to Towhee. So there's not a lot of signage right there. And this intersection at Towhee is where we're seeing a lot of issues. Between that 4:40 and 5:03 p.m., 59 cars came through there, 23 of which ran or rolled the stop sign. California stops I don't think are legal in North Carolina. Apex PD pulled over 3 of these vehicles between 5 and 5:30 p.m. for running the stop sign. Through traffic is using the cul-de-sacs for high-speed turnarounds. Now this is neighborhood. This is full of kids. Absolutely. I've got 2 there. The 4 other members of my neighborhood that are right here, we all have children there. We have high-speed turnarounds. We have stop signs that are being ignored, and this is the first day. So there's a few things that we want to be able to talk about here. One, we have a lot of instances of speeding. It is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit there. We do have some new signage up there that is supposed to be able to track what those speed limits are and show what your speed limits are, what your speed is. They are not active, so they are decorative only at this point. So we would like to see some more of that. We do have the speed bumps that were newly installed, and we definitely appreciate that a lot. However, that is doing limited good for being able to legitimately slow down this traffic. The impact here should be pretty obvious. Right now, this is just the second day, and now is when habits are going to be created by everybody that is going to be using this as a through passage. So right now, we have the opportunity to do something about this. I definitely appreciate the police officers that were there and made the pullovers, but just with this small snapshot of data, we can see that this is not going to be sufficient. So we do have a couple suggestions, but overall, the impact that we're trying to avoid here is we do not want to see any injury. Definitely don't want to see any fatalities. So in line with your Vision Zero, I'd like to see a couple things changed up here. I'd like to see new location for the no-through traffic. I think having that at the intersection of Peakway and Towhee would probably be pretty useful, and make sure that it's just local traffic only, because it's easy to lose sight of it when you're coming through Olive Chapel and Grappenhall, and now you find out that you have a choice to make here. You're probably going to be irritated, frustrated. This is a new traffic pattern, and now you're going to take it out on the roads that you don't know and people that you're not friendly with, you don't live there. So we've got a little bit of an issue there. So changing the no through traffic sign, potentially Towhee and Peakway, Dogwood Drive, Bryan Drive, and to try to force more traffic to the 55 detour sooner, potentially. Another recommendation is to close or add speed bumps on Towhee itself, since that seems to be the intersection that is proving to be most problematic at this point. Granted, our data sample is relatively small and constrained, but rest assured, the neighborhood will gather more and more data. I have absolutely no doubt. Another suggestion here is to lower the speed limit in Whitehall Manor from 25 to 15. I think all the residents in there would be perfectly fine with getting where they're going a little bit slower in exchange for that. Another one, we request an immediate traffic survey. There were traffic surveys done to be able to prep that, but now we have a different situation, and it would be useful to have formalized data rather than just the anecdotal and crowdsourced. As useful as that may be, I know having the legitimate tooling is probably going to be useful here. Finally here, the last one that we had listed was for these streets or stop signs, what would be really nice is to have the markings on the ground as well. Those wide, bold, white lines that give you an indication on the ground in case you're not paying too much of attention to the octagons and red and blazoned. And again, this is to try and keep in line with the Vision Zero. Now, we definitely would appreciate any help you can give here, and we will be in constant communication and hopefully in very positive communication to be able to make this work as best as possible. I'm here for any questions or for any comments from my team.
No questions, comments, but can you give us your name and address for the record?
Absolutely. Jack Roloffs, 1404 Grappenhall Drive.
Thank you so much for speaking tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Elizabeth Stitt.
Elizabeth Stitt, 3113 Friendship Road, Mayor, Town Council, good evening. On your agenda tonight is a discussion about the town's legislative agenda. So I thought I would share my and my neighbor's legislative agenda so we could keep it all in one evening. We are organizing and going to be seeking additional rights for properties in the ETJ and in the Wake County areas, because we have not been able to make progress with Apex. And in my conversation with other communities who are around fast-growing towns, they share similar concerns. So I'm very encouraged, just as the state legislature puts the brakes on putting sprinkler systems in new homes that was being proposed here, that we can put some brakes on what's happening in Apex as well. So I'll give you some examples. So the sewer map that stayed up on the website for a very long time always showed the forest main on the south side of US 1. So we invested in our properties, and then we're blindsided by the forest main being moved to the north side. So we're going to ask that the maps have to be required to be updated. And if there is a change to those maps, there has to be a waiting period, because we as property owners should not invest our money if we know it's going to be torn down. The same is for the water map. If you ask for it, it's not posted on your website, so I had to ask for a copy of the water map. The water map has not been updated in 10 years. So right now it is showing water lines going down the same path as the forest main. And so again, you know, is 10 years old. If you can't update the maps for people to know how to invest in their properties, then you shouldn't be allowed to do certain projects. When it came time to do the field work around the forest main, the town tried to bring drilling rigs into my wet waters, my floodplain, and that was a violation of state law. Nobody was looking out for us. So I had to be the one to raise my hand and have them stop. We asked the town for the 401 and 404 permits for the forest main. Didn't get it, but I got a postcard from the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers letting me know that, guess what, that permit had been submitted. So I read it, and in the permit, it said the town was going to use blasting around our properties. But that is not what the town staff had told us. So then I had to reach out to the town staff. They did get the permit corrected. But if I had not looked out for that, it would have gone through. And then you could have actually blasted on our properties when it was not appropriate. You would have just said, oh, it was in the permit, we could do that. That's what the contractors would do in that circumstance. So we also as a community want a group meeting, and we're going to ask the state legislature to require towns to meet with the community and not just blow us off. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking tonight. Beth Bland.
So Beth Bushman Bland, 3724 Friendship Road in Apex. First, I have three things. I don't know if I'll get to them all, but I'm going to try and do them in order. The first thing, Tom and I want to thank Mayor Gilbert for coming out to our property. Finally, someone from the town council, mayor, showed up so that they could understand our concerns about what's going on or what's going to happen to us with the Big Branch force main. It belongs on the south side of US 1, and Tom and I are still advocating to move it to the south side. So I'm going to keep showing up. It needs to happen. Second item, very quickly. My father lives in downtown Apex. He's on Westmore Street. He's 93 and a half years old. He lives independently. He can take care of himself. My mother passed a year ago. I have very, I guess, age-related genes as far as they lived a long time. But he was affected by the utility bills also. He managed it himself. He did go down to town hall. Found it very difficult to have a conversation through the glass. The people behind him made him uncomfortable that he was holding them up to have the conversation he needed to have, so he cut it short. He really didn't get the answers he needed. And it's just unfortunate that this situation has been so difficult to manage. So Mr. Vosberg, I hope you can get to a solution soon. And as we've heard earlier, there's a lot of people, I've read a lot on Nextdoor, very unhappy with what's going on. Last, it's interesting to me and many others why there is not more community engagement at the town council meetings. It's also interesting how Friendship and the New Hill communities are being impacted by the growth of Apex. And we feel more community engagement is needed. So we're going to start a dinner club on the nights when the town council isn't meeting on Tuesday nights. So our first, we're going to hold next Tuesday, November 19th at 6 o'clock at J&S Pizza. And we'd like to extend an invitation to the town council and anyone else in this room and in the community to join us. And let's figure out some things, and what is a better way to have a conversation than over dinner. So thank you.
Thank you. Good location, by the way, J&S.
Yeah.
All right, Matt.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Matt Spearschneider. I live at 109 Kylescu Court. It's kind of spontaneous tonight, but I'm on the utility bill bandwagon. Also, full disclosure, I'm kind of relaying this information. My fiance pays all the bills, but she's not real happy right now, to say the least. So, yeah, our bill has. She knows the numbers. She's on it. It's been pretty consistently it was 224 the previous cycle, 216 before that. This month it was 471. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, and I can't envision any type of scenario. The amount of electrons are flowing through my household, especially given that I'm usually only there during the week. We're fortunate enough to have a place at the beach. She's been out there. So I can't imagine how that this is doubled, more than doubled. So we can afford to pay the bill, but at the same time, I think we're fortunate. I get that, but hearing some of the other people, sounds like there's a problem. You don't have this many people come and bring to your attention whatever that is. Somebody mentioned cyber attack or something. I don't know what the issue is, but something's going on. It doesn't make sense. And I would appreciate if somebody could follow up with me, get back to me with some detailed explanation of the bill. Yeah, I left my phone number. I can leave my email.
Yeah, we can get that for you and have someone from staff to connect with you. Thank you.
That's it.
Appreciate you speaking tonight. Thank you.
No?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely. Alexis Kennedy. Hey, good to see you.
Always good to see you, sir. Good evening, council members. Today I thought I was going to continue my discussion on apartheid. I wanted to talk about the new law that had passed last week in Israel, our supposed ally and democracy in the Middle East, which were with an overwhelmingly voted that children under the age of 14 can now be sent directly to prison and no longer need to be held in juvenile penitentiary. Instead, I want to focus on one child, Hind Rajab. She was 6 years old and died many months ago. She broke the heart of the world with her cries for help to the Red Crescent on her cousin's low battery cell phone. She was the only remaining survivor in a trapped car with her dead relatives. The ambulance was given clearance to rescue her by the Israeli government, which never arrived and was found a week later, charred with 2 men's bodies no longer recognizable. Today, a report was released by the Forensic Architect. Forensic Architect is a multidisciplinary research group based out of the University of London that utilizes architectural techniques and technologies to investigate cases of state violence and violation of human rights around the world. The group is led by, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Eyal Weizman, who is actually an Israeli-British citizen. And it was his team that found 335 bullets were fired into the car that 6-year-old Hind was in, along with her 6 relatives. The investigation also found that the Israeli military had a clear view of the vehicle and could have seen the children that were trapped inside. Hind was trapped in the car, surrounded by her slain family for hours, while the Red Crescent paramedics tried to reach her. And when the ambulance arrived, it also was fired upon, killing the paramedics attempting to rescue a dying child. I thought that since it's not being reported in the Western news, I would inform my community where their $20 billion this year alone was being sent. And I thought to myself, where could have this $20 billion gone for Americans, where 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? 40% of Americans only control 2.5% of America's wealth. And we are supplying $20 billion to a country that has free healthcare, free education, and supplemented housing grants. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking tonight, Ms. Kennedy. Mary Lebo. to see you.
To see you. So my name is Mary Lee Behar, and I live at 1206 Applethorn Drive. I'm in Whitehall Manor, the community that was talked about earlier today with the road traffic deviations. I'm here with my two boys today, and well, before I go on, I'll say good evening, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Town Council. Thank you for all that you do for our town. I am here with my two boys, and I want to reiterate some of the concerns mentioned by my neighbor. I stand here representing myself and many neighbors who could not be here today, who are very understandably angry about what's going on and concerned about safety in our neighborhood with the increased traffic. We acknowledge that the town has put in many safety measures, and we appreciate the forethought that went into that. However, I don't think it's enough. I would say maybe every other house in our neighborhood has school-age children or younger, including like newborns, toddlers. And you can talk to your kids about being careful, but they're kids, they're gonna play, they're gonna throw balls and ride bikes, and it's not enough. So I don't know. I would like to see some of the things that John mentioned earlier put into place, like no through traffic, maybe another stop sign, or more crosswalks, more police activity and presence in the area. And I think I would also be in favor of a 15-mile-per-hour zone. I was thinking that if more neighbors and police start driving through the area at 15 miles per hour, maybe people will get discouraged from using that as a quick cut through. And I think my son has something to say.
Right.
So I was going like down a cul-de-sac, and like I was coming out, and then I saw a car coming like right in front of me, and I was trying to brake, and that car also braked. And if the car didn't brake, then I might have crashed, because like I was going, but my brakes didn't work because like they stopped the wheels, but the bike just kept going.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I was with my friends, and one of the other ones also nearly crashed.
Okay.
That was just in the first day. The kids are coming out of cul-de-sacs, and it's dangerous. Thank you.
Thank you guys for showing up, speaking. Thank you. That was the last speaker signed up tonight. We'll go ahead and close public forum. And again, thank you everyone for showing up tonight to present your concerns. You are heard. Thank you. All right, we'll move now to new business 1. And it's development and investment grant program revisions presented tonight by our amazing economic development director, the best in the nation, Joanna Helms.
That's an introduction. Good evening, Council and Mayor. In 2016, the town adopted its first ever development and investment grant policy, or more commonly known as a incentive policy. The objective of the grant is to, of course, encourage location, retention, expansion of business and industry in the town, thereby creating jobs and also creating investment in the community. So the policy itself provides some information. It provides guidelines, baselines, thresholds for what you would have to do to be eligible for such a grant. In addition, as you all know, the policy is just the beginning. It has to be publicly noticed. It has to be publicly approved in an open forum. And then there's also a development incentive agreement that has to be executed between the town and the company itself. And in that agreement, there are many more details, protections, performance measures, so that the town is protected and that the company does perform the way they say they're going to as far as job creation and investment. So, to date, we've had a couple of companies that have been able to take advantage of this grant. We had Pentair back in 2017, EnviroFlight in 2022, and then Empire Distributors in 2023. During the Economic Development Committee's last meeting in November, staff was instructed to look at revising the current policy and perhaps looking into a gradual incentive percentage, and also expanding it from a 3-year to a 5-year consideration. So that is the beginning of the conversation tonight. I know that you've received both a copy of the current policy and then hopefully the red line version. And so I'm just going to make a few points on that red line version for you. And I'll just say in general, the reason why we're here today, again, it's been 8 years, so time to look at things again and get a fresh look on them. Also because in doing some research, we realized that most of our partners that we align with, both Wake County and then now Chatham County with the Apex Gateway development, most of their policies are a 5-year threshold, or a 5-year time frame. So we wanted to be more aligned with our partners and also make ourselves more competitive. So if you look at the red line version, you'll see that there's some very minor changes under the new jobs threshold and eligibility. And again, this is just for clarity in the wording when it relates to job creation, job wages, et cetera, and also the way a company can report their wages. Again, just clarifying that language. And then again, under eligibility, just clarifying the language as far as the minimum investment that's required and the minimum number of jobs that's required. And again, there will be a lot more detail, a lot more performance measures in the actual development agreement, which you all would approve after on an individual basis for each company that would qualify for this. So looking further down on that page, you'll see that we're proposing that instead of having the current policy, which is a 3-year policy and 90% of taxes paid, the company would receive back on a grant, we are proposing to extend that out to 5 years, with year 1 being at the 90% level, but then gradually declining over years 2, 3, 4, and 5. So at year 1, it'd be a grant at 90% of taxes paid, year 2, 80%, year 3, 70%, year 4, 60%, and year 5, 50%. And then on another handout I believe you received, there are a couple of scenarios that demonstrate what an investment would look like today with the current policy, 2 different investment levels, and then same investment levels if you put that out to 5 years and then did the graduated decline percentage of the investment. So I won't go over all of it, but for example, in scenario A, for a $25 million investment, you'll see there the total number that the company would receive over the 3-year period. And then another scenario that shows a $100 million investment and what that company or business would receive over the 3-year period, compared to same investments, 25 million or 100 million, and what that investment grant would then total over the 5-year period with that sliding scale down 90% to 50%. And there's a summary there at the bottom of the page as well for you. So again, a couple of reasons why the committee felt it was just time to revisit this and look and see what our competitors and our partnering communities are doing. So we want to be more in line with them. We want to be more competitive. And we think this proposal gets us there. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And I'll just say, as the chair of the Economic Development Committee, everything you said is accurate, and we fully support it. I'll let Councilman Zegerman speak as the other committee member. So.
Yeah, just want to echo what Ms. Holmes just mentioned, right? So we want to first of all align ourselves better with other incentive programs in that county levels, and secondly, it is by extending the timeline, we do increase the incentives a little bit over time, but that will make us more competitive. And just kind of looking at the overall economic climate in our area, we've seen large projects go to different surrounding towns, and I think that's, or my personal opinion is that having a stronger incentive policy will hopefully attract some of those businesses towards Apex, especially now that we have some commercial real estate coming online with Apex Gateway in particular.
And I'll just mention one other thing, if I may, Mayor, just for the public knowledge, is that this incentive grant is a grant after the fact. So there's no funds that go to a company on the front end. It is you come to town, you create the jobs, you pay your taxes, and then you get a percentage of that back over a period of time. So there's no out-of-pocket expense to the town itself. It's just an assistance on the front end with their taxes paid. On the back end, not the front end.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, sorry.
Maybe you guys on the committee can talk about, it sounds like it was initiated at the meeting, but was there some background as far as feedback from businesses that there needs to be a change in the policy, or was this initiated by you guys?
As far as I know, there was no direct feedback necessarily, but the very little uptake we've seen on the older policy, and again, policy being 8 years old at this point, we just warned that it was time for a revision and get a little bit sharper on the pencil.
Okay. Did I hear you say that this aligns us with the county policy? Is that what you said earlier?
Somewhat. So the Wake County's policy is a 5-year policy. And also, for example, Chatham County's policy is a 5-year policy, very similar. And since we are partnering with Chatham County on Apex Gateway, when we're making those proposals and those presentations to prospective businesses and clients, if we can show our alignment with our partner agencies, both Wake County and Chatham, it just makes a more cohesive presentation. It makes a more cohesive recruitment tool, if you will.
The difference, I think, is in some of the percentages, though, right? Like the percentages are not 100% aligned.
Correct, but it's in both cases it's a sliding scale downward as well.
Right. I think the county policy, correct me if I'm wrong, starts at 80% and it slides down to 40.
In Chatham.
Right. Just kind of running the math on that wasn't very favorable compared to our 3-year 90% each year policy, right? So in order to make our incentive a little bit stronger than where it is today, we started at a higher percentage and then used the same 10% sliding scale year over year.
Are there any guardrails here in statute about what this policy could be? Could we do 100% for 5 years or 10% for 20 years? Like, is there, like, this is authorized under some statute? What, does anyone know, like, what the parameters that we're trying to go in here? I'm just curious. Is that legal?
No, I mean, it's your policy, so it's not limited outside of anything that might be arbitrary or it would be disadvantageous to any particular business over another, but there's not a set, your policy has to follow within these parameters.
Okay. Councilwoman Killersworth had a question.
Yeah, I was just curious if a company coming in could take advantage of a county and a municipality policy like this and kind of stack them.
Yes, they can.
To their advantage.
They can. And as a matter of fact, part of Wake County's policy requires a local match.
Okay.
So, with Councilman Mahaffey's question, do you feel like this is where we need to be right now?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Helms, just one quick question, because I know that we had EnviroFlight was, I think they made their application under the old policy. And
correct. All three of those examples did.
Right. And I'll use them as the example because they're a bio-environmental as well as kind of agricultural based company. They cutting edge of science, able to harness the manpower and the resources that we have here in the park. And quite frankly, just one of those companies that when you think, hey, if there's going to be a business that's going to thrive and flourish in Apex, that's the sort of thing that we would want to attract. Now, knowing that we were able to attract them under the old policy, will this put us into a position to be able to bring in more of those type of businesses as well?
Absolutely. We're seeing our pipeline is getting bigger. As you all know, we now have much more product on the ground than we did five years ago, and certainly much more than we did 8 years ago. So we are continuing to see a higher increase in projects looking in this market. And so we want to make sure that within the greater Triangle market that we're as competitive as our neighbors in the market. And the pipeline is very full of projects. And Apex Gateway has a lot of product on the ground. And there's other examples across the town where you can expect to see more and more job growth.
All right, thank you. Councilman Ziegler, you ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the new policy.
Right.
I'll second it.
Second, Killersworth. Motion Ziegler, second, Killersworth. Any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, new business 2, government relations strategy and legislative agenda process update. Our amazing town clerk, Alan Coleman. Also the best in the nation.
Okay, I'm ready. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm excited tonight about this presentation because this is a long time coming. We've been talking about legislative affairs. We've been talking about governmental affairs. We've been talking about setting a legislative agenda for almost a year now. So I'm super excited to provide this presentation to you all. And really the purpose is just to talk through what you can expect to see over the next several months as we start to collect data from our various departments, as we start to get feedback from you all, as we start to build that legislative agenda going into the spring of the new year. So when we talk about where this function currently sits, it's currently in the town clerk's office, and that will be the primary focus of tonight's conversation, is our government relations and strategic partnerships program. So when we talk about our government relations strategy and we talk about building those relationships and those partnerships, we have to kind of take a step back and look at, why are we calling it relationship and not affairs? And we have to be intentional about our strategy, and we have to be intentional about how we're creating partnerships, because as we know that, you all operate as a nonpartisan council. We also know that some of our state legislature operates a little bit differently. So when we talk about relationships, we really need to have a strategy and be very intentional about how we want to get things done. So our strategy includes building strong relationships, setting clear priorities, and then also setting ways that we can track performance. Because at the end of our legislative year, we want to be able to say, were we able to be successful? Were we able to accomplish certain things? We've also got a dedicated FTE that is in the clerk's office. So we're going to start the recruitment for that and hope to have someone on board in December. And we've also contracted a lobbyist to help us with our state-related affairs. And so that is Checkmate Government Relations. They currently represent 17 municipalities across the state, as well as the League of Municipalities. So I think we're well represented by them. So when we talk about our legislative agenda development, we have to kind of start with a framework. The town has not adopted a legislative agenda since the early 2000s. So this is a time for us to kind of set that framework and start a new canvas, and we can pick any color that we want to paint with. So when we do that, we want to make sure that we're setting clear and concise priorities. We don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into, saying we only need this much money for this project. But we want to be a little bit broad, but we want to be simple, if that makes sense. We also want to include policy priorities as well as capital needs. Some of you may recall in the past we've set, during our budget process, some funding priorities for funding projects from a federal level and a state level. What we're hoping that this legislative agenda will include is not only those initiatives and those projects, but we're also going to look at policy initiatives. If there are things that have been passed recently that may hinder maybe our development community or our transit community, then we want to make sure that we're attacking those, is probably not the right word, but addressing those and working to improve those policies and how they're written. We also want to look at how our state associations, so not only the League of Municipalities, but even from the county perspective, making sure that we're including priorities from both of those organizations so that we can be a lot more robust with our agenda. Also, as we look at our education and engagement, we know that that's going to include the community. We know that that's going to include staff, as well as our legislators, making sure that we're intentionally meeting with all of our delegation, not only that represent Apex, but Wake County, because we know that that's how we're going to be able to get things done. We also want to make sure that it aligns with our game plan Apex, and to give it some credibility, we want to make sure that council is adopting the plan. Again, I spoke about kind of the history for our legislative agenda. It was adopted in the early 2000s. When we look at the first phase of this, we're going to be surveying key department stakeholders. So we're going to look at our community development, our housing community, our economic development from our strategic goal, economic vitality, making sure that we're including those. We talked about an incentive and an investment policy this evening. We want to make sure that we're being intentional about creating that new growth in our town, responsible growth. Looking at our infrastructure and our planning development. We know that in years past, and even this most recent session, the General Assembly took a few stabs or a few jabs at our municipal powers and our local controls. And so we want to make sure that we're retaining as much of that as we can. And then also, as part of our legislative agenda, we want to make sure that we are looking at it from a funding and a policy standpoint. So when we look at the design and implementation of this, we talked about our survey. So we're going to be doing a data compilation or a data compiling. Once we have that data, we're going to sift that through. We're going to look at that and we're going to set up portfolio meetings. So as you know, we've got 3 portfolios strategy and performance, development and operations, as well as our community and safety. Figure out which one of those are prioritized. When we spoke about 2 slides ago, we talked about clear and concise priorities. The legislative agenda will not be a 40 or 50-page document because we know that that's not setting clear and concise priorities. This will be a 1 to 2 pager, and we want to really focus in on our key areas, our economic development, our transportation and planning, our community development. So once we've collected that survey, we've done a prioritization, we're going to ask you all to weigh in on that prioritization, similar to how we do our capital investment plan, how we do those projects. We're going to ask you to weigh in. And we're going to also ask our lobbyists, from a boots on the ground, statewide perspective, what are we really going to be able to achieve? Then we're going to set up a council adoption. We're also going to have a legislative breakfast. We're going to look at inviting all of our legislatives in February, and this will be a time where we'll not only cover our priorities, we may take them on a field trip. Sometimes we know that visuals are important. We know that taking them out to see, hey, this is where potential roadway will be. This is where a potential sewer project will be. Visuals are helpful, and it's helpful for them to also have the understanding so that they understand our priorities. We're going to look at strengthening our relationships. Over this last year, we've been very intentional about meeting with our legislators, making sure that we are not only providing support for them, what we can on our side, whether that be through meeting space, whether that be through logistical support, inviting them to various events that we have, but also because we're going to need them. We're going to need them to help lobby on our behalf and represent Apex. We currently have a Government Relations Council committee that is staff only, so take the council out. We currently meet monthly, so we've got that in Apex, Morrisville, Holly Springs, and Cary. We meet monthly. We talk about what the priorities are amongst those towns. How can we partner? How can we come together? The reason this is in design and implementation is because we've recently started talking about should we invite at least one elected official from each of those municipalities so that we can have their buy-in and start to engage with them. Then when we go to set up meetings with our legislators, it's a team approach. It's not just Apex is advocating for this project. It is all of Western Wake or all of Wake County that's advocating for this particular project. And then you can expect progress monitoring in the fall as well as in the spring through your strategic planning session as well as your budget development process. Any questions?
All right. Great job. Thank you. Questions?
I'll start off. So regarding your last slide, Mr. Coleman, the agenda development, do you have a more specific schedule that you can share with us, by when certain things need to be done in order to meet some of these objectives?
Sure.
More importantly, stay ahead of the legislative session for the General Assembly so that we are prepped and ready and we're not on our back heel reacting, like it has happened in the past.
Sure. So you all have your retreat set in February. So the goal would be to survey staff and have that prioritization done in December and January, and then prepped for the February retreat for your prioritization. So I would say end of February, 1st of March, having that adopted.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I will just speak to the that this is a great step for us, and this to help answer the why, and for those who haven't had a chance to watch our past meetings about this, one of the things that has been identified by the council is that there were opportunities that we felt were going to some of our other neighboring municipalities and other municipalities that we were not postured in a position to be in. And one of the things that became very clear, and I know that as we all talked as a council, we recognized that we needed to be able to create a legislative framework as well as building those coalitions ahead of time so that when the request came for, hey, we need to be able to have a, move money to this location or to another location, we'd be postured in that position. And this is part of a larger strategy. I mean, we've had meetings with our neighboring municipalities. We built extremely close ties and relationships with those within the Wake County Board of Commissioners. Wake County school systems. I mean, this is not a one-off thing. This is part of a larger campaign strategy by this town to make sure that when opportunities become available, we're postured and ready. The best preparation you can have is to be prepared. And that's what this plan is going to get us to do. So I look forward to being able to continue working on this, and thank Alan for your lead on this, because this is something that we've been asking about and we've been steadily building to this point. So thank you so much for your hard work on that. Also, thank you to town staff, because this is not a singular effort. Lots of things going on. We're not at the final product yet, but we are at least in a much better position than we were when we started this whole thing, because now we're at least in a position when and if funding comes through, or when and if issues come about, or even when we just need to be able to have an advocate in the room, we're much better off now than we have been. So this is a good step.
I think too that the complication we've had in the past, and this FTE I think maybe can help with this process, is sometimes you get a call from our senator or our House representative on Thursday, and they say, I need what you need by Saturday, right? It's like, okay, right? What projects do we need to put forward before them? It takes a while to be able to understand what we need and get them the proper information. And the same thing happens at the state level too. They're like, get me what you need by this date, and it's not very much time. So having people in place that can help us create that pathway and have those things ready to say, okay, this is what we need, and hand it right off to them, I think is wonderful. So.
Great job. Any other questions? All right. Mayor Pro Tem Gray has volunteered to drive the van when we do the tour.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I'm all about a good windshield tour. All about it.
Thank you. All right, let's take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back and finish up. So we'll recess for 10 minutes. 7:30. New Business 3 Rosenwald School Project Overview, would like to invite up Mr. Jeff Hastings, Apex Historical Society President.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple words, Mayor, to start off, and kind of explain why we're here tonight and what's been going on. So the past year, probably year and a half now, I've been working with some community members, some of which are here tonight, working with staff to identify and think of ways to help preserve what really is a historic gem that we have in the Apex community. That's the Rosenwald School we have on Hume Olive. And what I wanted to do after all this time has gone by is to sort of bring it to council and let you guys know what's going on, what this asset is, why it's so valuable to our community, and just make you aware of the discussions happening, because it's been going on for a while, and I don't want to go off on my own for too long without updating you guys. At this point, I want to be clear, no final decisions have been made, and we're not here to approve a final something or other. We're here to talk about what's going on and why it's important, and that's all. We're not asking for any money tonight. I think all that we really want to come out tonight is to update you guys, the community, and hopefully through our discussion, signal to the community and to staff. I'm hoping that we're supportive of the effort going forward, and more information will come as other decisions are made. So that's all we're here to do. And with that, Jeff Hastings, he's on our planning board. He's a president of the Apex Historical Society, right? Is that the title?
That's correct, yes.
And you're also in the Wake County Historical Society.
That's right.
And if you could take it away.
I'll do it. Thank you, Council. Mayor, Council. Tonight I come to you with, I think, what is a unique opportunity. I have the pleasure of sitting on 3 different boards, so to speak. I'm the president of the Apex Historical Society. I'm also the vice chair of the Wake County Historical Commission, and also am now a board member of Capital Area Preservation, which oversees all of the landmarks and the historical properties that sit in Wake County proper, including Apex. So all this we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Councilman Mahaffey and also good friend Larry Harris. Larry and I are neighbors. We're about 2 miles away from each other. I live on Friendship. He lives on Evans. He's been here a little bit longer than I have, but that's okay. We still call ourselves friends. So about a year ago or so, we got word with the Historical Society that the Rosenwald School that is on Hume Olive Road was a potential property that could be saved. It sits right now in between 2 developments that they're bookended on Hume Olive and Old US 1, I guess Holt Road and Evans Road, if I'm not mistaken. And so we were asked to entertain an option that if the present owner of that property wanted to potentially donate that structure, A, could it be moved? B, if it was going to be moved, where would it be moved to? And then C, long-term, what would be the potential for that building? So we've met probably 3 or 4 times over the last year, the last time being last week, to try and figure out what we can do to help save this property. A little bit of education on the Rosenwald schools. The Rosenwald School Project built more than 5,000 schools from the 1910s to the 1930s. The need arose from the chronic underfunding of public education for African American children in the South. Rosenwald was the founder of the Rosenwald Fund. He contributed seed money for many schools and other philanthropic causes. Sorry. After the Supreme Court ruling 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision, which declared school segregation unconstitutional, the buildings were frequently abandoned and dismantled. In some communities, surviving structures have been preserved because of the deep meaning they had for the African Americans as symbols of the dedication to their leaders and communities to the organization. In 2001, the National Trust for Historic Preservation named Rosenwald schools near the top of the country's most endangered places and created a campaign to raise awareness and money for the preservation. 41 of the remaining Rosenwald schools are in North Carolina, 3 of which are already in ruins and we would like to try and figure out how to add this to that list. 43 more buildings in North Carolina are on the study list for the State Historic Preservation Office. So time is starting to draw nigh, and I'd like to ask Larry, if he doesn't mind, to share a little bit more of an education standpoint for the Rosenwald schools, because he's taught me more than I could ever read.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council. Yes, I can talk about the Rosenwald School because I'm a product of the Rosenwald School, particularly the Friendship Rosenwald School. First of all, the Friendship Rosenwald School and many of the others, and by the way, Wake County had more of the Rosenwald schools than any other county in the state of North Carolina, and North Carolina had more Rosenwald schools than any of the states from Maryland to Texas. So that it's a particularly interesting matter to me that we get something done, and the clock is ticking in terms of its condition. I noticed that the chimney has started to fall off of it. You could see it from the street, and other areas of deterioration that we've noticed. More about the Rosenwald School itself. The Rosenwald School was an incubator, actually, for the HBCUs. And the HBCUs is the reason we have a vibrant black middle class. So that's a pretty big reason to save and honor the Rosenwald schools. So I hope we can work toward getting this done. I feel like it's going to be done. I'm claiming it. And if we do, it'll make you proud sometime in the future. Trust me. I attended Rosenwald School myself. So I can tell you a story, but I won't take the time now, but I'll tell you later that I'm an advocate for it. And I tell the story all the time about how I attended it the last year it stood there, largely because my mother wanted to make sure that I went to school, although my birthday came along and I couldn't go to the regular school. She said, I'm gonna see to it that you go to school anyway. So she went up to the Rosenwald School to help the one teacher out, Mrs. Spence. And so I said my mother was the first assistant teacher. And it's important to all of us in the community, trust me. And I hope we can get this thing done. Thank you for your help and your support.
Thank you, Larry. So this is where we've been. Now, where are we? The Apex Historical Society has agreed to be the stopgap between trying to save the school and get it to where it needs to be. Last week, we had we were fortunate enough to meet with Greater Christian Chapel Church and to present to them our ideas of what it might look like for this building to be on their property. So what we're going to do next is their leadership is going to talk amongst themselves to see if it's something that they would entertain. If it is, then it's where do we go from here? We wanted to make sure that this is not something that we want to move a building to that property if they would like to have it, and then just drop it and walk away. We wanted to be a collaborative effort between the Historical Society, between neighbors in the community like Larry and myself, and the church, or whoever ends up having the property, to make it something that can be a cornerstone of the community, that not only whatever entity wants to inherit it, but also that the community can rally around to see what the history of the Friendship community is all about. And I told my wife I wouldn't too much, but I want to show one. Alan was fortunate enough, I was able to get this video. If you look, this was done in 2002. We started with the Wake County Historical Commission. We started in Panther Ranch with a similar school, which was in worse shape than the one that we're looking at right now. And the church that's across the street from them took this on with the help of Capital Preservation and the Wake County Historical Commission to try and figure out how to save this building and make it a landmark for that area. It's one of 4 Rosenwald schools in the county. Wake County leads the state. We have 4 The next one is Hertford County, which has 3. All the rest of the counties, the most is 2. So we have an option. We have an opportunity to here in the future to go from 4 to 5 in the Rosenwald schools, having it on the National Register of Historic Places. So, Alan, if you can play that, I want to show you what that we were able to do with that building.
I want to welcome you to Panther Branch Rosenwald School, a school that was built in 1926.
It's a rare chance to see the inside of a Rosenwald school. Many have been demolished or abandoned. Only 60 remain across the country, and Panther Branch is one of them. Born out of the Rosenwald School project that was established by one of the founders of the Sears Corporation. Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington's partnership led to the construction and funding of more than 5,000 schools for Black students between 1913 and 1932.
And without this school, Blacks wouldn't have a school to go to.
Reverend Jeffrey B. Robinson leads the Juniper Level Missionary Church across the street. Members of the church are former students of the school.
This is Miss Perry, who was a student here, but also taught here.
Robinson says people like Miss Perry lit the spark to restore the school in 2013.
And time was of the essence because how long could they live before we get this restored? And so that pushed us, and then the doors just became open for us.
Hanging on the walls in the artifacts room.
And we have a picture of the first principal, Mr. Barry Wilcott.
The names and faces of a handful of students who attended Panther Branch School. Robinson says most of them walked 2 to 5 miles every day just to get an education.
Real people came here, and the impact of that. And without this school, I don't know if they would have been able to enter into the military and to be professionals or to have another trade or a job without having education. And so,
as Robinson walked us through the newly restored building, although modernized, they kept the original wood floors as well as the accordion doors that were used to separate the 3 classrooms of students, and the strategic placing of the windows so that light would shine in during school hours.
Which showed us that a lot of thought went into building these schools.
The doors to Panther Branch Rosenwald School closed in 1957 after the Brown v. Board of Education ruled segregation in public schools unconstitutional. But 65 years later, it still serves as a place for community and opportunity.
This is bigger than just a school. For us, it is the nucleus of trying to be of this community where we can offer help.
Thank you. So where do we go from here? Where do we go from here is the owner of the building is willing to donate the building to, it would come under a capital area preservation easement, which would oversee in perpetuity the protection of that building. Then we find a hospitable host that would have that building that would then work towards not renovating the building, but just maintaining it, because again, we're not looking at delivering a building and then saying, okay, y'all take care of it and rebuild it. We're looking at trying to figure out how to get state and federal funding, which is a hotbed right now for, especially for Rosenwald schools, and along with the town's help for some seed money for moving the building based on the money that was set aside with the 2101 South Salem Street historic issue with the Tudor house that the town took, that there was a payment made versus saving a property, which is water over the dam. So how do we mitigate that and take some money to save a property that is well worth saving? And so in the coming months, Councilman Mahaffey, Mr. Harris, myself, we'll be coming back to you with reports, whether it's in council or offline, to let you know what we're doing and how we're trying to do it to save this building. And Donnie wants the building. When we talked to him, Donnie he wasn't hesitant to donate the building, but when we talked to him that the potential is there that we would be able to work with possibly a church where it would go towards a family event and kid-centric event that could be utilized, he was excited about that. And it was the answer was nothing but yes. And so what we're going to do is in the coming months, we're going to get together. We're going to get the the Friendship Community, Councilman Haffey, anybody that would like to join. We're going to go to Panther Branch. We're going to tour it. We're going to talk to the folks at Panther Branch that actually had skin in the game because they were there every step of the way. Capital Area Preservation will be at that meeting to tell them what's involved every step of the way. How do we take the windows back and put them back like they were 50 years ago, not like they are right now? How do we stabilize the building? How do we get the foundation? What do we do for water? What do we do for sewer? What do we do for parking? What's entailed so that we're completely transparent, not only to whoever the receiver of the building is, but to the town and the community so that it's something that 10 years from now, we can all look back and say that we're proud to be part of the process. So unless Terry or Mr. Harris have anything to say, that's my presentation. Most of y'all know that I don't stand up here and talk to y'all about stuff that I'm blasé about. If I'm not passionate about doing something, I don't want to get up here and waste anybody's time about doing it. And I am passionate about doing it. Been here for 23 years. It's a 1.5 miles from my house. So I want to see this. I want to see this through to the fruition, and I want to see it to where the people that went to the school can still enjoy it and see the benefits of the labor of what we're trying to do. So I want to pass around this is the Panther Branch School as it sits today. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, thanks for the presentation. Thanks, Mr. Harris, for being here. Thank you. Mayor Harris. Councilman Haffey, you have any closing?
I would just say, just to reiterate what Jeff is saying here, the vision here that I have, that I think shared by Jeff and Larry and other members of the community, is to preserve this historic structure, to have it act as a centerpiece for the Friendship community, to highlight and tell the story of what the Rosenwald schools are and how much they meant to the community of Friendship, first and foremost, but of North Carolina, of the South. And it's a fascinating story, and it means so much. It's such a rich part of history, and we heard a bit about how they're really the ancestors of the the HBCUs, and I think it's just vital to, if you think about building a community, this is what it looks like. We build a lot of houses out there, and there's a lot of impacts in the community. If we do something like this that we can center the community around, and the educational opportunities with the Friendship schools there, it really there's a lot of potential here. So coming back to what Jeff said, the concept today isn't for us, the town, to be the owners. We could do that tomorrow. We could take this building, we could have it just be another Town of Apex Park building if we wanted to. But that's not really what the vision is. We want this to be a community center owned by the community, by a nonprofit, by someone else. It's under active use and cared for by the community. And our role, as I see it, likely in the near term, is to provide likely that gap funding and that expertise to facilitate the preservation and restoration of this building. And as you're hinting at, there's so much money out there for these projects, so many grants available, there's so much interest in stuff like this getting done. And I think that if we get involved, we can make sure it happens. So thank you guys, and happy to hear your questions too.
No, I just want to say, you have my full support. I want to see it get done. Let's be ambitious. Let's get it done. I would love to see it.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask a question maybe to either of you is, I think it's evident what the public good is of preserving the building, but I'm wondering, you mentioned something about we could do it right now and move it to a park or something, instead of whatever's going to happen maybe. And you said that kind of negatively, but I'm trying to understand the public good is also the public use of such a facility. And at a park, people could use it. And potentially what I'm hearing, I'm not sure the scenarios here, but it would not be available for the public despite public money going into it potentially. And is there Is there a goal of public use in any of the discussions you've been having, or for you?
I mean, we could sit here all day and talk about the vision of what it could be, but certainly the vision is for eventual public use. But public use doesn't necessarily mean publicly owned, right? It could be a space available for rent. It could be an educational space. It could be a lot of different things depending on who we set up the ownership. I love the town of Apex. I love our staff, but having the government own a historic asset like this doesn't always lead the best results. And if you don't believe me, just look out the window back there.
I know. I would think our investment would be commiserate of the public good, not just preserving, but also the use of it in some way. And I hope that's part of the equation here, that if it's a substantial investment, that would mean more of a public use than a small investment would mean, preserving it is worth some amount of money, and then a bigger investment, I think, implies the people get to use it.
Sure. So concretely, and again, we're not here today with an ask for a budget amendment to allocate anything, but we envision, I believe we got $100,000 from that's dedicated to the town of Apex for the use of historical preservation. The idea on the table today, not ready to execute on, but the general idea is that money would be used to facilitate the transfer and stabilization of the project.
Okay.
And I believe that once we have it stabilized in its final location, that there will be a lot of grant funding at the state and federal level available, and privately funded as well, to facilitate the restoration as happened at Panther Creek.
Okay. And one more question for you, or maybe this is more for you.
Let me follow up on that a little bit. You talked about public use of it.
Yeah.
So like Panther Branch, their building is used every day for after-school care.
Okay.
So it's for those that may not be able to afford a full after-school care or a YMCA care. It's used for that aspect. And so I think that if you look at it, then the opportunities are that if it's not a corporately owned building and you don't have to get tied up with the town red tape, if it's the best case scenario would be somehow work out an agreement with the church, whether it's church owned or a nonprofit on the church property, however it works. The best case scenario is that when you drive by at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, you see the youth that may not be able to go to a normal or a high level after school care that's corporately driven. You're looking at something that the community can help with to maintain and increase the educational opportunities of those kids. They also rent it out for weddings, they rent it out for family reunions, and it's not a corporate driven rate, it's more of a community driven rate. And so it's open, the Panther Ranch, it's not, you don't have to be a member of that church to use that building. It's open to anybody in the community that wants to use that building.
Okay. And two quick follow-ups on that. And about that, was that, with the Panther one you're talking about, was that written into the contract when you guys got involved or whoever got involved, that it would be used for that kind of purpose?
No, the landmark status only states that it was brought back to the condition that it was when it was a school. And it's exterior, it's not completely, but it's mainly exterior in purpose. It's like I had a discussion with one of the people last week. The old Rosenwald schools were not handicap accessible. So they came back to us once they got into the final issues and said, okay, we really want to do this, but a fair amount of the people that want to use this for family reunions are wheelchair bound, or they need handicap accessibility. So we made an exception at the Wake County level that what you saw on the tail end of that was them walking down that ramp. The ramp is on the back side. And so what we look at the county level is when you take that picture that you're looking at right there, if you're driving by and see that picture today, does it look similar to that picture would have looked in 1935? And the answer is absolutely yes. So there's some things that we do have to incorporate to make sure that we're compatible with the current laws, which are absolutely right and I agree with. So, but how do we make it fit aesthetically so that it looks like it did in 1935 or 1925.
Okay, and one quick follow-up. I noticed in the cover sheet, I guess they talked about examples from different places, Sanford and this one and maybe Zebulon. And when I looked into those a little bit, and I noticed the county had some involvement, Lee County, at least in the Sanford one, and I think Oway County with the other one. So has the county been brought into this conversation? And if so, what has that been like?
So we've talked to the county. They're aware of our efforts. We've talked in commissioners have joined some of our meetings to discuss possibilities.
Okay, good.
So they're on board. They also view this as a priority. Like us, there's no final plan for what to do. What we really need to do is just decide the final location, identify the final location, get it preserved and restored, because the possibilities are really endless for what this building could be. And you talk a little about public use, that'd be great. Like, what we don't want to see happen is just sit there for another 15 years and fall apart, right? Or for there to be a fire, or for something else to happen, because it's not a preserved, there's no easement on it now to preserve it. Someone could buy the property and just knock it down. So avoiding that outcome is what we're trying to avoid. There's lots of ways to do that. We're looking for the best outcome for the building, for the community, that respects the history of it. But anything's better than letting it fall over.
Okay.
I would just add your question about the county. While I do think collaboration and having support from the county, but I don't want that to be the showstopper. If the county doesn't want to contribute, we need to move forward.
I just bring it up because that's been the protocol. It seems like in other examples that I've looked at. I don't know all the examples
right,
that
and,
exist.
And again, to your point, it's bookended by development. The people that own that property are not going to live forever. And so the potential for development that happens there, as I've seen at the county level multiple times, is that somebody comes in and they buy the property and it's on the survey. So the way that it happens, if you're not aware of, just want to make sure, the way that it happens is it's on the North Carolina survey with State Historic Preservation Office. So with it being on the survey, if it were to start to be developed, the red flag goes up because it's on the survey, and it gets kicked over to Diane. Diane then has to talk to Capital Area Preservation, and they do analysis of the property. If Capital Area Preservation deems it that it's a salvageable project, then there's a discussion and debate about how do you salvage it, where do you move it, what do you do with it. So in a roundabout way, we're taking it out in front of all that issue. We've already got Capital Area Preservation's already involved. So we've already got them on the front end of things. We're not having to rely on the back end of things. And I won't say for sure, but there are projects in Southwest Wake County that have historic structures that development is anticipated, and all of a sudden a fire breaks out in a property that has no power and nobody living there, and it's deemed, who knows what caused that burn. So we're trying to get on the front end of things on how can we mitigate all that stuff and save the structure to make it where it's a valuable commodity and an asset to the community versus a liability down the road.
Okay. I bring these comments up, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate the work that you guys have done. I just bring it up. It'll be public money, whether it's from previous development or whatever it is, to go to something like this potentially. And I want to make sure that we're good stewards of the public money.
Sure. And
That's it.
I'll just remind you, like we were given $100,000 in private money, which we must use for historic preservation.
Yes.
And I'll be willing to be part of any conversation that curtails around that stuff. Is this important enough to spend that money on? And I'll be the one to be able to, I'll be the first one to step up to the table. I'll have to beat Larry to the table to try and make sure that y'all understand that, yes, we believe in it. We've talked to Donnie who owns the property. We've been in the property. There's some issues, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that we can't overcome.
Well, having as a resource, not just for Wake County, but living right here in Apex is great. So I'm
right.
happy that you're here.
Thank y'all so much.
Hold on. Is there something?
I think it's all been said, but Yeah, the friendship community is such a, deep history, right? And so for us to take an opportunity like this to preserve an historic structure like this, in our town, I'm fully supportive, right? Looking forward to the actual plans when they come out, and the budget request when you guys are ready, and we'll continue the conversation at that point.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Ms. Judd, Ms. Kroom, thank you, the Branch family. Thank you all for being here. All right. All right, new business 4.
I got a motion here, Mayor.
Okay.
So this is an amended motion that was on our consent agenda. Drops the part about the budget ordinance amendment for now, so I'll just read it. Motion to award a construction contract in substantial form to Landmark Structures for the construction of the Pleasant Park 1.5 million gallon elevated water tank project. Authorize the town attorney and town manager to make minor modifications to the contract not affecting the construction schedule or cost. Authorize the town manager or their designee to execute the contract on behalf of the town and to approve corresponding capital project ordinance amendments number 2025-3 and 2025-4.
All right, thank you for that motion, Councilmember Mahaffey.
I'll second.
Second, Killingsworth. Any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion carries unanimously. We move now to updates by Mr. Vosper.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have quite a few for tonight, so bear with me on that. I'll start with probably the more difficult or heavier topics and end on a couple positives. The first, I want to thank the residents that came forward from Whitehall Manor tonight. We also have received several emails. I had a pretty in-depth discussion with Councilmember Mahaffey this morning on some information he shared from social media. I do want to assure the residents that we are engaged and monitoring what's going on in the area. As was mentioned, PD is out and is present. We view this as we're looking on 3 fronts. We've got the education and communication front, we've got the traffic enforcement, the PD presence, and then we've got manipulation of traffic. So we are open to tweaking on all of those fronts. We heard some suggestions related to where signage could be better placed. We are looking at that on the communication front. PD, it didn't take me asking PD to go out there. They were proactively anticipating and went out knowing that this was happening, so they have been present for a couple days. But we are still monitoring data there. We're looking at speed. As was mentioned, the speed humps that were put in, we are seeing those as being effective. But we are looking for other ways to be effective there, and we'll continue to monitor that situation. We also are hopeful that as people become aware of the circumstances and the detour, that those that don't have to go to that area will find other routes and not be just the detour route. We do recognize that people may not have a choice, and so they're going to utilize that detour. But we do hope that some of that traffic will taper off, which isn't going to fix all of the problems mentioned, but hopefully will help us out a little bit. So we are actively engaged in that, looking at solutions. We had several brought tonight. I've received several from you who've received them from residents and emails. So we are looking at all of those and kind of compiling that and looking at our best practices as well, and working within some of the limitations that we have legally on what we can impact on that. All right, that's topic 1. Topic 2, utility billing. It was referenced that a video did go out today on social media. That is correct. It's our latest update. The bigger update that I have is we don't have the contract signed yet, but we are hopefully days from having the contract signed. We have identified the firm, though. It's officially Barry Dunn, McNeil, and Parker. They go by Barry Dunn. They are a national firm. They've got locations in 7 different states and territories. They have brought their expertise related to utility billing, technology. We believe the contract has been to that vendor. They've given us input. It is now legal, and they are responding to the feedback that we received from the vendor. So we anticipate that we are days from having that contract signed for that third-party review related to utility billing. Next topic, our PD search for our next chief. We did put some information on social media related to this item, but we are also going to be looking to send some additional information out this week. The biggest part that we want to get out to our residents is that on November 19th at 5:30, we will have an open house in our senior center where we will have our finalists, our candidates come forward. They'll be able to say a few words about themselves, and then we'll have some interaction with the public, kind of break out into different areas of the room, and have those finalists speak with our residents. So more to come on that item. We also, because of the holiday this week, we're receiving a lot of inquiries related to trash, recycling, and yard waste. Trash and recycling are as normal. Those are scheduled, so that pickup continues as normal. Yard waste is a little bit different because that staff, it'll be condensed. They will be picking up Tuesday to Friday. So they will make every effort to pick up the normal volume that we would pick up Monday through Friday in that Tuesday through Friday period. But I will tell you now, there will be some that will carry over to the following week because of the condensed activity. So we just want you to be aware as residents contact you and say perhaps theirs was not collected. We're trying to get as much of it as we can in the condensed week, but it will be the following week if we missed you this week. Next item, and I'm glad they're still here, we have the Apex Service Day is coming up on November 22nd. This is in the theme of Think Apex, but we, as we kind of have shifted that to community engagement, we wanted an opportunity that was staff focused. So Think Apex is community focused and staff focused, but we wanted to bring something to the table that was a staff opportunity to give back to the community. So on November 22nd, we will have our first Apex Service Day. It'll be limited. We're kind of launching it, doing a pilot project. I think we have 50 max employees that will be able to participate in that, but it will be with Dorcas Ministries and with Western Wake. So we will be I think we'll be at the Bougie thrift store that was mentioned earlier. But if you are available, we would love to have you stop by and participate with us. But we have 2 shifts on that day of employees that'll be going in the morning and afternoon with a lunch break for them that we'll all kind of celebrate and have lunch together there for that. So that's November 22nd. And I think that I've covered. Did I miss anything, staff? No. Okay. That's all I've got.
Great updates. Thank you so much for that. All right. We move now to closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session for the item listed, closed session 1?
Motion to go into closed session as listed on closed session number 1.
Mayor
Second.
Pro Tem, motion second. Gant, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. We move into closed session. Thank you, Officer Foster and Officer Hotchkiss, for being here tonight. Governors, thank you so much.
Doesn't mean I have to like it.
All right, we are live. We are live. All right. All right. That concludes all the business we have tonight. So thank y'all very much for everything. Meeting's adjourned.
Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. See you. Thank you for everything.
Hey, lady.